Hi, my name is Kevin Gallagher of the Global Development and Environment Institute and a professor at Boston University. Today I'm at Tsinghua University in Beijing, China, and have the opportunity to talk to Professor Zhu Andong, an economist here at Tsinghua University and a member of the steering committee of the Ideas Network. We're going to talk about the Chinese growth miracle, inequality, and some of the interesting developments in the Chinese labor movement over this summer. Andong, much has been made of the Chinese growth miracle. Very few countries in the world can boast that they grew at over 8% a year for a 20 or 30 year period. Right. But what gets relatively less attention is the fact that inequality has increased so much here in China. Looking at the data recently today, I noticed that in 1978, inequality as measured by the Gini coefficient in between 0 and 1, the closer you get to 1, the more unequal you are. The Gini coefficient in 1978 was 0.18, and some measurements today say that the Gini coefficient is 0.50, which rivals Brazil, although in places like Brazil it took a couple hundred years to become that unequal. Could you comment on the rise of inequality during the Chinese growth miracle?
Yeah, with the accomplishment of fast growth and fast rising of living standard in China, at the same time we suffer rising and very high level of inequality in recent years, and it already caused a lot of problems, not only in economy but also in the society. I mean, in economy, it was just because of income inequality. The consumption ratio gets so low as 35% of GDP, just about half of the US number. So we suffer to the insufficient domestic demand. So the Chinese economy had to rely on more and more on exports. That caused a big problem both to the Chinese economy and to the world economy. In terms of the society, I mean, it already caused a lot of social tensions.
I've heard the Chinese government response to the data regarding increasing inequality as, well, there are certain Chinese that have been able to get rich first, but eventually everyone in China will get rich. As an economics professor, that to me sounds like the Kuznets curve. Will that happen here?
Well, yeah, originally people think, yeah, that would happen, I mean, naturally and easily, but now people are a little bit more and more concerned about would that really happen naturally and smoothly. According to, as an economics professor, I don't think that will happen, I mean, so smoothly or so easily. There has to be a lot of social changes and the changes in the power relationship in the society.
On a related note, this summer has been quite remarkable in a number of ways, with workers in foreign plants such as Foxconn, Honda, and Toyota initially having suicides because of working conditions and low wages, and there seems to be a surging labor movement where there have been strikes at many of these plants. Not only from outside observers is it interesting that these are occurring, but that the government seems to be okay with them happening. Can you comment on this new development in Chinese worker relations?
Well, first, I mean, it's really a pity to see the series of suicide in Foxconn. That's really bad. But that may be a kind of natural result of the current mode of production. Apparently, I mean, the Foxconn and Honda and Toyota, that's some kind of capitalist mode of production. I think what we see now is the natural product of that. On the other hand, it may be also a good sign or positive sign about the change in the Chinese labor market and in the Chinese economy. with more workers, they get more conscious about their own economic situation, they can get united and they can struggle with different means, and then they can push up their wages. And I think that's a good thing for not only for themselves, but also for the change of the Chinese economic growth model. So the Chinese, with more income to the low income people, and the consumption ratio can get much higher, and the Chinese economic growth can rely on its domestic demand more and more. I think that's a good sign.
There has been a growing call from economists, especially economists from the United States, that China needs to rebalance its economy and change its growth model, as you say as well. However, many of those economists really point the finger at the Chinese currency as being the mechanism by which the Chinese should rebalance their economy. Is rising wages and increasing wages, in your view, a better mechanism to rebalance Chinese economy and stimulate domestic demand, or should the Chinese appreciate their currency?
Sure, definitely I think higher and much higher wages should be the better solution. And in fact, I think that's a mistake. No matter how influential or how famous the advocator is, just pointing to the currency, I think it's the wrong direction. Because if we look at the data, in recent years, the Chinese currency in fact get appreciated by more than 20%. At the same time, we see, if we put the impact of the crisis aside, we see the U.S. Trade deficit gets more and more serious. So at least that's one sign to show that what they are talking about is, makes no sense to me. So I think, with higher wages and the Chinese economy can be more healthy, and the world economy can be more healthy. And in fact, by the way, I have to add one more thing. I think the trade balance problem is not due to the Chinese government or Chinese workers. Rather, I think that's a kind of relocation of the production places of the international capital, including the U.S. capital.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor.
It's really my pleasure.